If it feels right, let's just take a few minutes to land here together. So, doing whatever you need or your body needs, you want to stretch or shift position. Aware that many of you are coming towards the end of your day. And just sensing in, how has the day been? Maybe you've had quite a busy day, lots of interactions. Perhaps it's been quite peaceful. Taking whatever time you need to slowly begin to settle. You might choose to close your eyes. Just to take a moment or two to sense into any ripples that are around as a result of your day so far. So, any sensations that you notice in the body. Some sense of how things are in the mind. Maybe your mind's racing, planning, thinking ahead, or remembering the day. Checking in with any sort of emotional tone that might be here for you. Just opening to how things are. Letting yourself be exactly as you find yourself this evening, this moment. We can begin, if we choose, to invite our attention to settle on one sensation. So maybe the breath, noticing the flow of the breath, and perhaps the contact of the feet in the floor or the touch of the hands in the lap. And just gently and softly invite our attention to rest with this sensation for a short while. Just knowing that however you find yourself here in this moment, whatever this experience is like, you can give yourself full permission to be here however you are. You don't have to be any certain kind of way to engage in the session. Maybe you're agitated or tired, or perhaps quite peaceful and full of joy. However you are, welcoming yourself into this moment. And then as and when you feel ready, you can slowly begin to blink the eyes open, shift and move the body. Just going to scroll through the pictures so that I can get a sense of who's here. Yeah, lovely to see you all today. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to this information session on the Teachers Program or Learning to Teach MBSR program. And we're very delighted to be partnering Bangor University on this. And we have with us Dr. Sophie Sansom, who's a senior lecturer at the university, and she's a co-director of the Mindfulness Center for Research and Practice. Probably got it wrong. And she's also the president of BAMBA, which is the British Association for Mindfulness-Based Approaches. So a very prominent person in the mindfulness space, and we're very honored to be working with her. So those of you who are not aware, in fact, the birth of MBCT was from this university as well, although most of us have always thought that it was Oxford. So I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Sansom.
Thank you, Angie. Yeah, here in the UK, we're really blessed to work very closely together and have always worked closely together with Oxford and other centres over the development of the field. So yeah, it's a real joy to see you. I'm always a bit taken aback that it's possible for us to be connected in this way, even though we're so far apart. So yeah, really appreciating that. So I've got a few slides to share to give you a bit of a sense of the history of what we do at Bangor and some of our plans for what we are hoping to offer alongside the Brahm Centre. And I think, Angie, we'll have time probably at the end for questions if things come up. Is that the best way? Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Yeah. So as Angie said, it was back in 2001, nearly 25 years ago now, that Mark Williams was at Bangor and developed the MBCT programme. And then alongside colleagues such as Rebecca Crane at the centre here, developed the first centre for mindfulness in the UK within an academic institution, 2001. And since then, the lecturers and researchers within the centre continue to engage in the ongoing sort of development and professionalisation of the field. So really looking at, learning on what we've, building on what we've learned over the last 20 or so years and looking at how we continue to maintain sort of the highest standards really in the way that mindfulness goes out into the world. So we deliver a range of teacher training programs. We have a master's program at the university, and we also have CPD, sort of non-academic routes to teacher training in MBSR and MBCT. Yeah, and so we also engage in ongoing research, particularly around the sort of pedagogy of the way that mindfulness is taught. I'm involved in publishing various journals, and recently some books have come out for the centre supporting teachers in knowing how to deliver mindfulness in ways that maintain the depth and the integrity of the practice, while ensuring they're relevant to the population and context that people are working with, so that sort of co-creating the way that mindfulness is going out into the world in ways that are maintain the quality, but also support innovation and accessibility. So the centre is the home of the mindfulness-based interventions teaching assessment criteria. So some of you might be familiar with that tool. It's often referred to as the MBI TAC. So Rebecca Crane and colleagues led the development of the tool at the centre, and it lays out 6 different domains that really provide a map of what high-quality mindfulness teaching looks like. And all of our training pathways are built on that, as well as our processes of assessing competency of our teachers. And so the supervision and the form of the training that we deliver is expressly designed to build these core capacities of high quality mindfulness teaching. So as Angie said, I'm also the chair of the British Association, and our work there really is looking at a growing shift, and I'm not sure how it is there for you and whether it's something that you're recognizing also, but there's a growing shift, certainly in the UK, in the way that mindfulness is being taught in a broader variety of contexts. So one-to-one settings, clinical, non-clinical, different culturally relevant applications. And so we're looking at how we support this broader application of mindfulness, as I've said, without losing the integrity of the practice. One way that we do that is through the international panel that acknowledges new mindfulness-based programs. So when a program is developed, they can apply to go through this process that we have put together that ensures that programs that are listed with organisations such as the British Association we can feel sure that they are mindfulness-based and that they're safe and effective, that there's evidence of their efficacy. So the British Association did a review of training centres in the UK last year, and Bangor was rated as exceeding requirements across all domains and also as an exemplar training organisation. Yeah, so I wanted to say a little bit about our approach to training. It's wonderful to be able to cultivate the skills to practice mindfulness in order to share that with others. But I guess the gift of teaching mindfulness really is in the committed development of your own practice. So all of the teacher training that we do starts foundationally at the core of embodiment, of really cultivating your own mindfulness practice, deepening that and teaching from there. So it's teaching from an embodied experiential knowing of the practice. And so deepening and developing your own practice, learning about yourself through mindfulness is always the foundation of any training that we offer. From this place, then you're in a very good position to learn how to facilitate evidence-based programs and to share mindfulness with other people, whether that's with friends, family, within work contexts, within professional or personal settings. And so we offer training. We do have a cohort-based master's program, as I've said, but we also offer training that's flexible and blended between online and in person, and also can be undertaken on a part-time basis. And when we teach in person particularly, it's very important that we facilitate a retreat-based context. So it's very much as if you're on retreat. As I've said, the intention is that to begin by deepening your own personal connection with the practice within retreat conditions. And from there, we begin to explore how it is to share mindfulness with others and to learn or to deepen our ability to do that if we're already trained. Yeah, and so that there are different routes into the training program. So you can start right from the beginning, or if you have already trained to teach another curricula and you're already quite experienced, then there's routes into the pathway, into the training that mean that you don't have to start right from the beginning, that you get to deepen or advance your skills in the later stages. And there's an option once you have completed the full training pathway you would then be eligible to apply for competency certification. And that would involve videoing your teaching and sending those videos in alongside a 2,000-word reflective essay for assessment with the MBI TAC, with the mindfulness-based interventions teaching assessment criteria. And that provides really a globally recognized, the highest standard of certification available for mindfulness teachers. So we're really happy to be partnering with the Brahm Centre, and Angie's going to speak a little bit about that.
Thank you. So we're very delighted that we're going to be partnering Bangor University to offer a mindfulness-based stress reduction teachers training program in this region. And so we'd like to move that along. So what we would like to be able to offer is a high quality teaching program, as we know that since COVID, many of the programs have pivoted online. And there's definitely a difference between learning online and learning it on site, in person, having the teacher right in front of us and teaching and guiding us. So what we're going to do is a slightly hybrid model here. 4 of the on-site modules will be delivered in retreat settings with 2 trainers present. And then we have 2 online workshops, which we feel can be conducted over 2.5 days over Zoom. And you will see what those workshops will be. So the training is going to be broken in 2 parts. One is that when we finish part 1, or even as we are progressing it, you can start to learn how to lead practices and conduct that after the first training retreat. And at the end of that 1-year elapsed program, then you will be able to teach MBSR course and you'll be considered a qualified teacher. The part 2 is the competency assessment that will then enable you to be considered a certified teacher. So I'm going to now hand over back to Dr. Sansom to explain the pathway.
Yeah, thanks, Angie. I think you really gave a helpful sense of it there already. But as Angie said, the beginning of the pathway is an in-person teacher training retreat in very much practice-based conditions where we start with early morning practice and all throughout the day. It's about establishing our own embodiment in over the first couple of days of the retreat before we move into then guiding an inquiry practice. So we learn how to guide the main practices of MBSR, body scan, mindful movement, the sitting practice, and we also learn the key principles of holding inquiry. And then from there, we have time to put those skills into practice to begin to guide others in practice and inquiry. Before we then come back for the second training retreat, which is really embedding ourselves within the MBSR curriculum. So we get a full and deep understanding of the theoretical underpinnings of the curriculum and all of the essential components of the pedagogy of how to teach MBSR, which is actually quite distinct in some ways from how we teach MBCT. Lots of overlap, but some differences within the pedagogical approach there. We asked people to do a silent retreat, and Angie might say a little bit more about her plans for a retreat that is part of the pathway before then teaching the full MBSR curriculum and coming back for this advanced level teacher training retreat where we're really bringing all of our experience of having taught with supervision, of having done guided or silent retreat and having done the previous training into looking at how we then deepen back into a more embodied, fluid way of teaching MBSR in the Advanced Teacher Training Retreat. There's also workshops around group process, so how we hold groups, and also finally an online workshop around professional issues and ethics and how this shows up for us, and we gain a deeper understanding of our own ethical standing and how that shows up through our professional work. And so the full training pathway is 1 year. So we've got some dates, and you might like to, I'm sure those dates are available in many places, so you might like to note them now, or you might like to come back to this. Is there anything you want to say about the dates, the venue, or anything, Angie?
Yes, so there is a slight amendment to the dates. In September, we have shifted the dates to coincide with the school holidays. So those of you who are educators may be pleased to know that those dates would actually fit very well into your term break. So right now we're aiming to do the first training retreat in Malaysia. So it'll either be Johor Bahru or Penang, which will also make it cheaper for us to travel there and take advantage of the low exchange rates that we have in our favor. And the other training retreat being Bintan, which will then be a ferry ride from here, which is about 1 hour. So the silent retreat, we haven't decided on the venue. I'm actually looking at inviting Dr. Ronald Siegel in November. So we're going to try to coincide with his presence here in this region. Okay, and then in the training in 2026, we haven't confirmed the venue, but the dates have been set from the 14th to the 21st. And subsequently, the 2 workshops that we're conducting will be online, and one set of it will be in January, and the other one will be May 2026. So when you've completed the entire year of training at the end of the May 2026, then you'll be considered a qualified MBSR teacher, and you will receive a certificate for that.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so we really focus on the big benefit of supervision within our training pathway and the big benefit of beginning to share practice with others. I think sometimes when we're training, we can feel like we're not ready or, we need to wait. And I think it's really important to make sure that you've had, the relevant standards of training. And then with this sort of support of supervision, it's possible to begin to take those skills out into the world and share practice with other people. So after the beginning training retreat in June, then we encourage and facilitate, I think, the opportunities to guide body scan, movement, sitting practice, and inquiry with supervision, with a more experienced teacher to support and deepen your practice there. And then after the curriculum training, the MBSR focus training in September, then you're advised to teach an MBSR program with supervision. And that experience of teaching MBSR in real world conditions really deepens your understanding of the practice, which then informs the third training retreat, the advanced training retreat, and supports us to get to go deeper there with our understanding of the MBSR curriculum. And then from there, following that, you can teach ongoing MBSR courses. And whenever you feel ready, you can record one of those courses to submit for competency assessment with the MBI TAC. And so, as I said before, that involves sending us the videos of your full teaching of an 8-week course for assessment. And upon completion of that, you receive a certificate of competency assessed teacher, which is the highest certification available to mindfulness teachers in the field. And on completion of the training, we have a listing on Bangor University website. If you wanted to, you'd also be eligible to list with the British Association because our training pathways are recognised with them. So they have a teacher listing so that the general public are able to find teachers that work both in person and online. And also you would then be eligible, as I've said, to apply for the competency assessment. So this is the competency assessment framework. For those of you that aren't familiar, I can see that the alignment's not great, so it's not very easy to read, but we can certainly send the tool around if you're interested in finding out more about the domains of competency. The first domain is looking at adherence to the curriculum that's taught, so knowledge and understanding of the theory and ability to apply that in the way that the curriculum is adhered to and taught. The second domain is about our relational skills, so the way that we're able to connect and convey mindfulness through those connections with our participants. The third domain is our ability to embody mindfulness through our deepening of our own personal practice. The fourth, guiding practices. The fifth, conveying the core themes of the curriculum through interactive inquiry and also through didactic teaching. And then group holding. So the sixth, holding the group learning environment in a way that uses the group as a vehicle to deepen the learning and understanding of the participants on our course. So these are the sort of 6 areas that create a framework or a map of the landscape of mindfulness teaching. And then we build on these particular competencies. Our training is built around the development of these competencies, as is the supervision, and then as is the assessment. So it would be we would expect that through the training that we're providing, that people would be very much ready to complete the competency assessment at the end of that. And I think that's just a review of the training pathway that we've already set out. So the first retreat, the second retreat, a silent guided practice retreat, and then third training retreat and competency assessment with the online options, the online workshops alongside.
Okay, when it comes to pricing, I'm not sure who drew the 3 green lines. I don't think it's me because I tried to raise it. So I'm not sure who clicked that pencil button above the audio. If you did, you can actually click that again and find the eraser to erase this 3 green lines off. That'd be much appreciated. So those of you who had written to us to request for an application form, you would have seen that the fees is 8,200, and that will be for part 1 and part 2. So we're going to split it up because some people have requested that they would like to be able to do part 2, which is a certification at a later time instead of all within the elapsed time of a year or year and a half following the completion, which seems to be a little bit pressuring. So we have split this up. And so if you're only going to go for part 1 first, the fee is 6,730. And we had indicated that we would provide some financial assistance. So what I was able to do was to tap on a grant that if you can submit and make payment by 14 February and ensuring that you meet all the criteria of admission, then you actually get a 1,000 subsidy, which will be across the board to anyone who submits by the 14th of February. And that date should be quite easy for everyone to remember because it's Valentine's Day. Subsequently, then you can apply to get your certificate of competency, and that will be in British pounds, which you will pay directly to the university. So you actually do not have to come through Brahm Centre. Those of you who have taken Oxford Mindfulness Foundation program on MBCT Teachers Training, then you can do a conversion. So this is for the people who have already done the teachers training for MBCT. And you will only then have to do the 3 modules and not all the 4 modules. So that would be at a very special rate of 2,000. Okay, but you will have to meet the criteria that we have that you have indeed completed this properly. Okay, so now we will open for questions if you have any. I have seen one question already put in the chat, which is about employment opportunities. So the good news is we are seeing an expansion of interest in mindfulness, and we've had many requests, including from government agencies, schools, and corporates, and also the social service sector, wanting to first offer mindfulness to their staff to improve their mental well-being, and secondly, to their clients. So I think there is definitely a demand that is increasing. Whether you get the employment, it's like anyone that goes to a university for a degree, that would really depend on how well you have practiced, how well you have acquired the skills in teaching, and therefore put yourself in a good position to be offered a position. We have been increasing our teaching faculty, and that is also on the basis that the people can really teach before we would hire them. So I hope that answers the question. Anyone else has a question?
Yeah, thanks, Professor Angie and Dr. Sampson. Ideally, we should complete the entire training, the various parts within a year. But in the event that something pop up and there is a need for us to delay or defer, is there some regulated time where you have to do it? Otherwise, you're going to start all over again. In other words, are the various parts of training modular in a sense? Thanks.
I'll let you take that.
Thanks, Angie. The various parts are modular, and if you had already completed, for example, the teacher training retreat previously, then you would be eligible to access, for example, the second retreat at a later date. I think the nuance would be whether or not it was available locally to Singapore or not in subsequent years. Our intention is to deliver this as a 1-year training pathway, and the longer term availability of that locally in person is not certain at this stage.
Well, my hope is that we can actually offer this once a year or once every 1.5 years. So with that option or with the intention, then if you miss a module, you may have then another opportunity to do it subsequently. However, if Bangor University does offer it through any other partners, then I think it can be considered, but we can't promise that. Yeah. So if you sign up for this, it's best that you lock those dates up. Yeah. The only one that we can be quite flexible is the silent retreat. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Victor? Okay, thanks. There's another question in the chat, and that's about, how long subsequently can you then complete part 2? I don't think there is a fixed time frame, but of course, the longer you wait, then, you might be more rusty. If you want to add anything to that, Sophie.
Yeah, I think it depends on your access to teaching spaces because the alternative might be the longer that you wait, the more opportunity you've had to practice. So it could be either way. What we would ask is that the videos of teaching that you submit were recorded within 12 months of the submission. So, if you led a course and then in 5 years you wanted to submit for competency assessment, you wouldn't be able to use the videos from 5 years ago. But other than that, there's no time restraint. So you could, once on completion of the training, you could continue to teach for 5 years and then in 5 years choose to record a recent course and submit that.
So under this program, what we're going to encourage people to do is to set up teams that you can actually come together to do practices with each other. And then we're going to be setting up opportunities for you to be able to lead practices at our centers. But what we can't promise you is that we're going to give you a group of people to train because that will be just too many of you for us to do that. And also we cannot then guarantee the quality that we deliver to the people that we bring together. So it will be the practices that we can give you the opportunity to lead at our centers. And if you're actually running a full course, you will have to be able to find your own people to lead, to conduct the course.
And when you're at that stage, that is that you're supported by a supervisor who's a more experienced teacher that works very closely alongside you, has online meetings, and can support you not only to deepen your understanding of the teaching as you teach, but also in the setting up and the organization of the program that you deliver. So there's practical support available to you. And of course, you would also have access to tutors, and we'd be there to support you for any questions or additional guidance that you need as you begin to teach.
You have the option to choose your own supervisor by doing contracting a one-to-one. So that list will be given to you, and then you actually pay that supervisor directly if you like to have a one-to-one tutoring.
Hello, Dr. Sansom and Angie. It's Neil here.
Hi, Neil.
I've just got a quick question. Is there an option of doing just part one and not part two? And if there is, what are the limitations of doing just part one and not part two?
There is no limitation. In fact, if you have completed part one, and even if you decide not to teach, that journey itself is going to be so enriching. And it's, it really deepens your understanding of mindfulness and how to really embody it. And then you have the ability to teach if you wish to. So yes, you have the option to just do part one. And subsequently, if you decide you want to do part two, then you can pick it up again from there. It doesn't mean you're not teaching just because you don't do part two. Not every MBSR teacher that is teaching actually goes for the certification. They may just remain as a qualified trainer.
Thank you for that.
Just to underline what you said there, Andy, about the personal development that's involved in the training. And even if you never wanted to teach anybody else, we have many people come onto the master's program. That's a 4-year academic training program, just because they want to gain a better understanding of their own personal practice. Through learning how to share practice, how to verbalize the guidance and to inquire into others, you're deepening your skills of being able to inquire into yourself and into your own experience. So it really is transformative work that we're doing, both for ourselves and for those who we share it with.
Can I also build on Neil's question, then what is the additional value of doing the certification, which is part two?
So it's recognised within the UK as the sort of highest standards of certification, as it demonstrates that your teaching has been reviewed through the lens of the mindfulness-based interventions teaching assessment criteria, so that anybody that is listed as a competency assessed teacher, the general public can be sure that their teaching has been viewed and that teacher is a competent teacher. If you are working as without that, then you have a certificate of completion of the training. so the public can be sure that you have done the training, but wouldn't be guaranteed the quality of the teaching that you would be offering. And so for organisations in the UK, such as the NHS or the education sector, it really does add value to what you're able to offer, and assurance around the competency and the safety of your teaching.
And for those of us who are actually teaching as a career, then we are able to be teaching our future teachers. So without the certification, we're not going to be in the position to do so. And also adding on to what Sophie had mentioned about deepening one's practice, some people also take just the part one and they incorporate mindfulness into the courses that they teach, which is not just MBSR, or they may incorporate into their counseling practice or their coaching practice, mentoring, or even in their management and how they manage people. They could actually incorporate that as well. So there are many other areas that you can insert mindfulness or weave mindfulness into your area of specialization. So for some doctors, it's actually their clinical work on how they manage the patients and how they help patients to stay more calm or to calm down before a certain procedure. That can be very useful as well. And if you're a teacher, it's very helpful to know how to calm your students, especially if they're kids or they're teenagers.
And to support, young people to gain insight into their own emotional and mental state, to support them to be able to regulate and choose how and where they pay attention, and to regulate themselves. It's an incredible skill that we're offering people here, particularly the younger generation, I think.
Yes, and you can start a meeting by leading a practice, or before you start teaching your class, and to lead a practice. So that would help to ensure that you have an ability to bring people's stress level down a few notches.
Part of the work that we're looking at, really, that's in a way at the forefront of what's happening in the field, is looking at the pedagogy of mindfulness, because over the last 20 or so years, it's been very much focused on teaching evidence-based program curricula, such as MBSR and BCT. And there's really a recognition that actually what's happening in the world is that people are adapting and integrating mindfulness in various other disciplines in the way that Angie's described, in one-to-one work, in various communities, in ways that are culturally relevant and accessible. And so really understanding what's core, what is actually essential in the way that we're communicating mindfulness, regardless of the context, and then what can be adapted, shifted, and flexed to meet those that we're teaching. That's something that we've done lots of work into understanding. And yeah, it's an ongoing journey for all of us, but definitely would be possible to sort of support those conversations, or to have those conversations about, oh, I'm working with these people, or I'm teaching in this way, what's needed here. And your supervisor can certainly support with that, as the tutors can also. Yeah. Admission criteria, Angie, I'll leave you that one.
Okay, well, first you must have taken an MBSR course, and I know some of you have taken MBCT, but not MBSR, and have since signed up for the March MBSR course. So that is number one. Secondly, if you have been doing mindfulness practice, you'll be in a much better preparedness to be taking this program. And it is recommended, although not compulsory, that you must have taken a retreat or done a retreat, but it's helpful. So it's a recommended, that's not necessary criteria. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just that, as you've said there, the benefit of the regular practice in the lead up to these courses can't really be overstated. It's very supportive for us to be able to engage from a more experiential standpoint, the work.
Any other questions? Great. Thank you. So if you haven't got an application form yet, please write to us at info@brahmcentre.com. And if you like any more information about Bangor University's mindfulness program, you can go to their website. And if anyone has actually seen this, which is the mindfulness based interventions, teaching assessment criteria, actually Bangor is the leader in this. So although they haven't been as prominent and working with them, I start to realize that they have not been taking as much credit as they should have in this field. So this gives me even more sense of honor to be working with you, Sophie.
Thank you, Angie. And it's certainly been a very collaborative approach in the UK to the development of the field over the last 20 years, though really impossible to pick apart the contributions of our colleagues from the main centres here. And it's a real joy to be able to work together in that way and learn together, taking the field forwards. Yeah. And brilliant. I'm so pleased to be able to work with the Brahm Centre and alongside you, Angie. Yeah.
Thank you. And she's also giving me permission to mispronounce the word Bangor, because that's not how they pronounce it in Wales.
Mm.
What's the correct pronunciation?
Banger. Rather than Bangor. Yeah.
Bangor. Yeah. Okay, if there are no more questions, thank you so much for joining us today, and wishing all of you a happy Chinese New Year. And even you're not celebrating, you've got a couple of days off just to chill. So enjoy yourselves, and don't forget to meditate.
Thank you. Thanks all. It's really a joy to see you all today. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, everybody.